And we are live for Tuesday evening live. Harlan, we'll let you take it away.
All right. Well, hey, folks, thanks for joining us on our Tuesday evening live. We're glad that you're here. I don't know about y'all, but Christmas is sneaking up. Well, it didn't sneak up on me. It is just smacked me in the face, I think, as it's here. With everything, we looked at the pandemic that was going on, and then the freeze and the flood and stuff there at the church. And folks, just to let y'all know, we finally have desks. They got delivered today. Phone people are supposed to be out to the office and get us hooked up phone tomorrow. I think we should be good for internet. I don't know till I walk into the offices tomorrow if the guy what he got completed, but who knows? But we're getting closer, folks, and that's one of the best Christmas gifts we could get, I think, right there, to be able to do that. But
in time for the next winter storm.
Yeah, let's not even go there, man. Let's not go there, man. Just no. But we're here, and it is Christmas. I want us to get into kind of the spirit of Christmas and thinking about it, and I want us to think of some prophecies of Christmas, some things that look forward to the birth of Christ that we find in the Old Testament. As I was telling Chris this afternoon, there was a professor in one of the Bible colleges, and I should have found it and looked it up, but one of the Bible colleges, he and his students looked up the odds of Christ fulfilling every one of the prophecies of birth in the Old Testament. And it is 10 to the 17th power. Basically, what that would equal to, if you want to kind of wrap your mind around it, is if you take the state of Texas and you take silver dollars and you cover the whole of the state of Texas with silver dollars 2 foot deep, take one silver dollar, make a mark on it, throw it out there, mix them all up, and blindfold some guy, tell him walk out anywhere, pick a silver dollar. It's got to be the one with that mark on it. That's the odds of Christ fulfilling all of the prophecies of his birth. And that, I don't know about you, Chris, that boggles my mind.
Oh, Chris, I think you're muted.
Chris is muted.
Let's see if I can unmute you there.
That boggles my mind too.
My bad. I had it muted. What I was saying is, humanly speaking, the probability of that would be zero. Yeah. But, like the angel said to Mary, with God, all things are possible. And so just no problem for the Lord.
That's it. That's the whole thing. Humanly speaking, impossible for God. Yeah, all things are possible. And to me, as we look at the prophecies, I thought, let's look at the very first prophecy of the coming of Christ. And that's actually found in Genesis. A lot of people don't know that, but in Genesis chapter 3, in verses, basically verse 15, and I'll back up to 14. Let me read it here. It said, and this is after the fall. This is when Adam and Eve went, whoops, we've messed up. God is confronting them. And God has confronted the man. He's confronted. Now he's confronting the Satan. And so it says, and so the Lord God said to the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed more than any livestock and more than any wild animal. You will move on your belly and eat dust all the days of your life. Now here's the prophecy. I will put hostility between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He will strike your head, and you will strike his heel. Right here is the first gospel, if you will. The coming of Christ, the prediction of the coming of the Messiah. And Chris, what I find, and Thomas, what I find very interesting in this is that in the Hebrew, basically, he will put enmity, hostility between you and the woman. He doesn't mention Adam here at all. And between and the Hebrew, if I'm correctly here, says seed and her seed. Now, if I remember correctly now, and Chris, you've had Hebrews since I've had Hebrew, and looking at
Been a
this,
little
but
while though.
yeah, but if I remember correctly, in Hebrew, the seed, this is always attributed to the male, the seed of the male. And so what we are seeing here is something that I believe is predicting the virgin birth of Christ. I mean, it's the woman. It's from, he didn't say from y'all, man and woman. He didn't look to Adam and say from you. He's looking directly at Eve here on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I mean, he clearly just the woman, her offspring, and excuse me, your offspring and her offspring. And so I mean, on the one hand, I guess it would be in the immediate context, everyone who comes from this woman, which would be all humanity. And
Mm-hmm.
so on the one hand, there's this enmity, there's hate, there's this enmity between, I guess we could go ahead and say Satan, the
Yeah.
serpent, you know, and all of mankind, because Satan is he's the enemy of all humanity. But then, you know, the seed, the one who would eventually come from her, you know, who would of course defeat Satan, sin, and death at the cross, you know, being Jesus.
Yeah. And it's not the seed of the one who comes from Adam,
Yeah,
seed of who comes from her.
yeah, yeah. And you know, I was on that with just to strengthen that concept. I was looking over in just reading in the gospel accounts of the genealogies. You know, Matthew's got a genealogy, and then Luke does, and so they trace them differently. And one of the interesting things was that had Jesus been physically descended from Joseph, he could not have been the king of Israel, because back in it was in Jeremiah, I forget which chapter, the Lord had pronounced a curse upon a particular king and said, you know, said basically that none of your offspring would be able to be the king. And Joseph was descended from that guy.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fact that he was born of Mary qualified him to be the king. And so yeah, just even from the very beginning, it's going to come through the woman, and biologically, you know, Joseph won't have any part of it.
Yeah, Joseph won't have any part of it. And it has to come through the woman. I mean, it had to come through Mary because the father of Jesus, God the Father. So
Right.
therefore, Joseph couldn't have had anything to have done.
Yeah.
You know,
On lots of levels. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, and folks, we invite you to jump in and chime in and comments and questions about things that you have. I finally, Chris said that there is a comment section here that I can actually see things on. I'm going, oh wow, that's pretty cool. So I like that. So let's make sure and just make some comments, some questions as we do. That's one of the prophecies I saw. I mean, the very first that's always stuck with me in the fact that from the very beginning, God had a plan of what we know that even before the beginning, God had a plan. But we see it right here at the very start of the fall of man. God says, "Hey, I got you.
Yeah.
We'll take care of this." I think
Well,
that's so important.
yeah, and even from then you go on, and after the curse, and when Adam and Eve are going to have to leave, I mean, they leave the garden. They had clothed themselves in leaves, which were wholly inadequate for clothing, because they're about to go into the wild, you know, the wild world, and leave the pristine beauty of the garden and the safety there. And so what does God clothe them with? Well, he clothes them with the skins of animals that have to die so that Adam and Eve can be fully clothed. And there's so many pictures here. I mean, you've got these animals die so that Adam and Eve can be covered. Christ died so that our sin could be covered. And so even in God's actions to provide for Adam and Eve's, you know, immediate need of physical covering, there's a foreshadowing of our greatest need, which would be making an atonement or a covering for our sin.
Exactly. Exactly. I mean, it's really interesting. You know, as you said, God had to take the life of animals. Blood was
Yeah.
spilt so that Adam and Eve's nakedness could be covered. Blood was spilt so that our sinfulness could be covered. That's just powerful stuff.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. All the way from the beginning. We look in the book of Acts, and I think it's when Peter, is speaking to the crowd where like 3,000 people get saved, and he said, that from the foundation of the world, Christ was slain, basically,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
even from before Adam and Eve ever sinned, God knew, and He knew what He would do, and man, He created anyway. It's pretty amazing.
Well, to me, that's love. To know what's going to happen, and then love people enough to create them, to have that much love. And really, this is what we're talking about, folks. Is what Christmas is all about. We think of Christmas as just a little baby being laid in a manger and all the glorious and things going on, but Christmas is really about leading up to the payment of our sins, the crucifixion. Mm-hmm. That's why Jesus came. Again, as Chris said, before the foundation of the world, this was God's plan. And we looked at this last Sunday in Isaiah 49. The conversation in heaven before it all began, and it was planned on this whole thing. And so, as we look at Christmas, we can get caught up in all of this stuff, all the joy in that, forgetting why He had to be born.
Yeah,
because of us.
Right. I was just double checking on that offspring, and it is the Hebrew word for seed. You were right about that. And the Apostle Paul picks up on that over in Galatians when he speaks of the seed that would be Christ.
Yeah. No, I think that's so anyway, like I said, that was the one I wanted to hit on as we think about, because every Christmas I just think of that this was planned. This was planned right up front. Almost you might say, there's debate on right here. Has Eve already had children? Because He says, I will intensify your labor pains. So to me, it's like those pains that you have felt are going to be nothing compared to the pains you're going to feel. So I believe Adam and Eve, they had reproduced before the fall. I'm just taken from that. But here it is. I mean, right in here with the bearing of children, we see the bearing of, in the future, predicting of the Christ child. So, I like that.
Yeah. One that I like, Harlan, is over in Deuteronomy, where Moses is speaking to the people. Now, this is after the Exodus, and we're kind of skipping over some. We're skipping over Abraham and the sacrifice of Isaac, and there's so many places in the Old Testament where the sacrifice of Christ is foreshadowed. But where in chapter 18, verse 15 of Deuteronomy, Moses says to the people that the Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among your fellow Israelites. You must listen to him. And so, right there, post Exodus, still in the book of Genesis, Deuteronomy, but in this era that comes after, the Genesis, is this prophecy that God from their fellow Israelites. So He would be an Israelite. He would come from that nation, and God would raise him up, and he would be a prophet like Moses, in that, he would speak, God spoke to Moses, Moses speaks to the people. And in a similar way, Jesus is the word that has come from the Father, and He brought the words of God to His people. And so there's another one, right there in Deuteronomy that I really appreciate that one.
Yeah, no, man, that's powerful. Yeah, it really is. I mean, right there, boom, like me. We see it. And, as you look at it through the Old Testament, I think we read over and skip over so many prophecies of the coming of Christ. We just kind of go over it, but how powerful it really is, and God saying this is going to happen, and it happened. I mean, that's the whole thing, which leads us today, when God makes a promise, we know it's going to happen. Thomas, let me throw it at you, my friend. You've been sitting there for a while.
Well, this is the part of the conversations that I'm like, you don't want me giving opinions because I don't know enough. I took no Hebrew. So I will just take your word for it. I was saying earlier before the call, before our meeting, whatever you call this, that we often gravitate to Isaiah for the prophecy, but it's even
Mhm.
said in pardon me, John 1, in the beginning of it. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. And just to say, hey, listen, Jesus has been here since it began. The prophecy was going to be told, it was going to happen. Um, Beyond that, I think that that's it's a good conversation, because people, Jesus wasn't just a New Testament addition. He was with us since the beginning, and it was a part of a plan. It was not God didn't say, "Oops, I'm going to have to change my plan." It was already a part of the
Mhm.
master plan to begin with.
Yeah, yeah, and that's it. And I think and again, in our mindset, we think, oh, Jesus had a beginning because of the birth, and we don't really grasp the fact that no, he has always been. He is God. I mean, we see that in Genesis. Let us make man in our own image. When God throws them out of the Garden of Eden, he says, let they have become like us, knowing good from evil. I mean, so you see the Trinity involved there. Jesus has always been. And I think that that's the thing that once we wrap our mind around it, and where he was in the glories of heaven and what he had to come down to this old earth and live the junk that we live, man, we can really, how much love that that guy has to have for us to just be able to do that for us, and knowing where it's going to end up at, you know.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
that
wish I had more thought-provoking end statement for that. Unfortunately, I don't. On that note.
no, I mean that John, the first chapter of John is deeper with theology about who the identity of the Son than people realize. It's just it's a well that you can go to your whole life and not grasp it all.
So
It's tremendous, and
that's right.
laying out the eternal nature of the Son being with the Father from eternity past, and that whole concept of the doctrine of Christ and who He is one of the key areas where Satan has led different cults, and even you see it in the first century. The church is barely getting out of diapers, and already there are attacks upon what the person of Christ and the
Exactly.
Word of God. Those two areas, and that's what Satan wants to destroy in people's minds. And so we go to a gospel like John, and in chapter 1, and the brevity of that and the importance for Christianity, it's huge. So it's a
Yeah.
great chapter in the Bible.
No, it really is, because again, I think so many times we deify Christ because again of how, again, Christmas, I think a lot of times does that, a baby born, and we don't realize where he is from, I mean, from the beginning. In fact, we're told that nothing could be created if he did not create it. So he is the creator. He is God. And so I think that as we look at Christmas and as we look at these prophecies, we've got to remember who Christ is. He just isn't a little, if you will, a little sweet innocent baby. Yes, he was born there, but was and is God incarnate, God in the flesh. And I think that's the thing that is hard for people to grasp, and that he gave up some of the glories of the Godhood, if you will, to come down to this earth for us, those he created.
And nor was he half God and half man. He was 100% God and 100% man at the same
Exactly.
time. The same time.
Exactly.
This is probably a good kind of
Yeah.
a intermission, I guess we'll call it, to maybe talk about some events coming up. One of that being Blue Santa. It's where the Troy Police Department collects toys for children and families in our area.
Mm-hmm.
In Harlan, if I'm not mistaken, the church is a drop-off site as
Yes,
well.
we
Okay.
are a drop-off site. We do support wholeheartedly Blue Santa and what they do in reaching families in need. And so, man, I would say that if you've got some you're out there at Walmart or whatever, and you're buying some toys, man, pick up some toys. If you want to pick up a gift card and give to Blue Santa, they can use it. If you would like to make a donation to Blue Santa, just make your checks out to, I believe it's Troy Blue Santa, and you can bring it by the church, and we will make sure it's deposited in their account. Kevin Harmon, who is kind of ramrodding this thing. I know he's got some people committee with him in that, is doing a fantastic job in touching the families of Troy. So man, I'm high on this. So it's a good thing to do, folks. I would highly encourage you to think about supporting it.
Absolutely. And then Chris, we've got Team Kid a Christmas stroll coming up on the 15th. Okay, I will talk about that.
I was going to say, where'd he go?
Chris, you want to talk about Christmas stroll?
I think we lost him.
That's all right. I see him.
There he is.
There, down on the bottom there. That's all right. Well, Team Kid Christmas Stroll is December 15th at 6 p.m. It's where they've gone through and they've taken the classrooms and they've kind of created more of is it a Christmas card setting? Is that similar to how to explain that, or kind of?
I think that would be good.
Giant.
Yeah.
Almost 8-foot Christmas cards that the kids will, the Christmas cards will serve as the background, and the kids will be like the living scene within the Christmas card. Each will be a scene within the Christmas story. So.
Okay.
And cool. Then we're feverishly trying to get everything.
And then that kind of counts us down towards the
I've got
Christmas
some
Eve service.
lag on my end.
Oh,
I'm not sure
no worries.
what's on here.
No worries. We're good there.
Yeah, and then our Christmas Eve service, December 24th, 6 p.m. and Christmas. It's our theme. The theme this year is for one for all. Christ came for one. If you'd have been the only one that needed him to come, he would still come, been born in that stable, laid in that manger. But he came for the world. He came for the nations. And therefore that's why the Great Commission is so important, is because that's who he came for. For one, he came for all. And so we as believers need to make sure that we touch the one that he puts in front of us. And we need to make sure that we look for the all, if you will, and to bring Christ to them. But Christmas Eve, I think it's going to be a great time. Chris and I have talked about it. I'm not sure if we've got it all tweaked and hammered down yet, but I don't worry about that. Chris does a good job. So I think it's going to be real good. It's going to be something I think very unique. Goes about 45 minutes. We encourage families to come. Tell them that if they say, well, we're not dressed, that's good. Bring them on. This is for families. We don't have a nursery. We want families to be involved in this, to remember the reason for the season, why Christ came. And that's why we're going to have the Lord's Supper also. So, man, I would encourage you, Christmas Eve, 6 o'clock, come. Go back home then, open presents, do whatever. But this is a great time.
Yeah, and they can catch a kind of not a preview, but maybe a kind of a precursor to this, counting down from last week's sermon, available on our Facebook page and website. They can watch or listen through the podcast that we have available, also on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. And I could go on down the list, but it's all, go to the website, fbctroytx.org, and it's all there.
And we're continuing on in the series Sunday. So it's we're still in Isaiah. It's some good stuff of why Jesus came.
Absolutely. And one of the questions, I had asked on at least Facebook prior to this, because talking about the prophecies of Christ revealed, was, people to share their Christmas traditions. If they have any they wanted to share. I haven't had any comments come through just yet, but that's something to also maybe talk about as we go down further.
Yeah.
Well,
where are we at time-wise, Thomas?
Oh, we have probably about 5 minutes. All
right. Well, Chris, I threw a prophecy at you. You did throw one at us, man. Well, I think you're lagging.
I can hear him. It's all right.
That's it. Well, folks, y'all.
He liked Deuteronomy. I remember he mentioned.
He liked it. No, Deuteronomy is a great one on that. And are you back, Chris? Okay.
I don't know if you
well.
can hear me. I have a really great idea. I'm frozen up over here. I may have to restart all this.
No, we can hear you.
Can y'all hear
You're
me
not frozen.
okay?
Yeah.
Can
Yeah, I can
now.
hear you okay, and you're not froze up here.
I guess not.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, I'm
he
just
may be
going to roll
delayed,
with this and trust that you guys can hear me. So, Thomas, this kind of came from what you were saying a minute ago. You said I don't. My Old Testament prophecy knowledge is not as great as you want it to be. Well, here's something that people can do. You get the Gospel of Matthew. Now, Matthew's audience, when he wrote this, was predominantly to Jewish people, and he presents Jesus as the righteous king of Israel. That's his overall emphasis on Christ. And as you begin to read the Christmas story over and over, Matthew quotes the Old Testament. And he'll say something like in chapter 1, verse 22, this all happened so that what was spoken of by the Lord through the prophet would be fulfilled. And then he says, look, the virgin will conceive and bear a son, and they will call him Emmanuel. Well, that's from Isaiah chapter 7. And most Bibles will have out kind of in the margins or somewhere, they will have, like here it'd be Matthew 1:22, and then they'll have the reference in the Old Testament where that comes from. So you can flip over to Isaiah chapter 7, and you can read that one, and you go on, and over in chapter 2, verse 5, it says, in Bethlehem of Judea, they said, for it is written, this way by the prophet, and you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are not least among the rulers of Judah. Out of you will come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. And so you just go through the entire Christmas story in Matthew's gospel, and a lot of Bibles will have in italics to identify the Old Testament prophecies easier. But Matthew is really good about saying this fulfills what was written by the prophet. Now, he doesn't necessarily say Isaiah or Micah or whomever, but you can cross-reference, and just in Matthew's gospel alone, you can find a lot of cool Old Testament prophecies. And so that we can know from our perspective, and as Matthew wrote this, he looked back, led by the Holy Spirit, to these Old Testament prophets, and they were writing things, and he says, this prophecy that this guy wrote a long time ago was fulfilled by this act right here. And so it's a cool way to take Matthew's gospel and get your mind around some Old Testament prophecies. They're really easy to identify.
Yeah. No, I think that's excellent. I mean, that's a good way to do it, to go back and to check on some of these, because Matt, as you said, he is writing to a Jewish audience. They would have been familiar with the Old Testament, very familiar with it. And so I would encourage you folks to do that. In fact, let me encourage you to do that before our next time. And we'll continue looking next time, if it's okay with you guys, at some more of these prophecies and the fulfillment of them. And maybe even looking at what are the odds of some of these things being fulfilled. I mean, when you look at everything, I think that's kind of interesting there. Thomas, we're probably close to time, are we not?
About a minute out, and we have a user, and I apologize. It goes by Rod Rageous on YouTube. Is that Mike? Is that our?
Oh yeah, I think that's.
Says, good evening, Thomas, Harlan, Chris. Hope you guys are doing well.
We're doing well, Mike.
Hello,
Praying
Mr.
for
Mike.
you, my friend. Yeah, I miss him.
Yeah.
But folks, man, I'm glad y'all joined us. Mike, I'm glad you joined us, my friend. At least we know you. I don't know if anybody else, but at least you said something. Yes,
yeah, it's Mike Phillips.
That's it. Yeah. That's who we thought. So, but
Amen.
That's right. But Mike, we're praying for you and your health. Man, look forward to seeing you. And let me encourage again, folks. Christmas Eve, man, make plans to be in church. Christmas Eve service. If you're around the Temple Troy area and you don't know of it, come First Baptist Troy, 6 p.m. Man, we are we're going to be having some great times of worshiping and remembering why Jesus came. So again, 45 minutes. It's not long. We keep it short, just so that you kind of know where you're going to be in the whole thing. And then, man, we'd invite you to come Sunday and join us in church. If you don't have a church home, if you do, be there. Be there. But if you can't be at anything because of something, then catch us on live stream. Get on our website. You'll find the link, and you'll be able to watch us on live stream and worship with us. So, man, that's pretty well all I got right there, guys. It's been good seeing you, and don't know about y'all, but I'm going to go watch maybe a little bit of TV. Kathy, I'll see you in a few minutes.